Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. So today is going to be just a quickie. I'm going to talk about records which I probably will never own, and I'm going to make it more specific by saying big, legendary, huge albums I will probably never own. Now, you know, this topic may have resonance with some people. You know, we all have a differing amount of interest, I guess, in chasing after the big famous beasts. But I guess I would categorise myself as being a collector who does generally keep an open mind with regards to the big, the big selling albums. I don't go out of my way to avoid things just because they're popular or big sellers. In fact, I would say I have a general tendency towards trying to check out the big famous albums to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So I thought this would be an interesting one to do. I've picked 5, I'm going to run through them and I'm going to try to explain as I go why I think I will probably never get these records. And I say probably because never say never, you never know. My 5th choice is the one that I'm most likely, if I ever saw it in the wild, to pick up. I'm not saying it's likely I would get it, but I'm saying it's the most likely of these 5. Then I'll go 4, 3, 2, 1, with 1 being the one that I'm as sure as can be I will never own. Right, okay, so let's start with number 5. And I should just say actually all these records are rock records really. Classic rock, a little bit of alternative rock coming through maybe, but rock basically. Okay, so number 5 is Metallica and Kill 'Em All. Now, I was never into Metallica back in the day when I was a teenager. I got into heavy rock and a little bit of metal, but Metallica and Anthrax and all that stuff really wasn't really my cup of tea. I do have Ride the Lightning by Metallica, which I do actually quite like it in the car sometimes. Now Kill 'Em All is one of those records, I know it's got this huge legendary status, but at this time in my life, you know, I've just hit 50 this year, I just think I've missed the boat with Metallica really. I'd struggled to find any relevance in that music to my life. I mean, I could enjoy it, but you know, I can't see myself ever picking it up. Maybe I would if I was at a record fair and I found a really nice reissue of it going cheap. Say I was to find, you know, like a 180-gram reissue of it, maybe on red vinyl or coloured vinyl or something, going for a tenner. Just might be tempted, but I'd still say it's kind of reasonably unlikely. Okay, so number 4, I'm going to go with The Joshua Tree by U2. I have spoken about this record on my channel before. I did a discussion video a while ago called something like Problematic Artists, and it was a discussion video with a friend of mine, Mark, and we both got talking about The Joshua Tree and we agreed that we'd still never heard it. We got to the age of, 50, never heard The Joshua Tree, one of the most legendary, well-known albums of all time. What can I say about this? If there was one U2 album I think I would get if I saw it, it would be one that I actually used to own, don't anymore, and that's the live album, the Under a Blood Red Sky record, which I used to have on CD back when I was a student, back in my early 20s. Not sure what happened to the CD of it, it went missing somewhere down the line. I used to quite like that CD, I used to enjoy it. I've never really got into the kind of anthemic style of U2, that kind of bombastic, vaguely messianic kind of sound. I'm not a fan of Bono or his voice really. Maybe if I saw a really cheap copy going in a charity shop, I might pick it up. I have left U2 records behind in the past. In Oxfam a couple of years ago I saw 2 copies actually of one of their records, forget which one, Unforgettable Fire. 2 copies, and I think they were going for about £2.50 each, and I left them both behind. The Joshua Tree, I don't know, maybe if I found a really pristine copy in Oxfam going for under a £5, I might be tempted if I'd gone for a lunchtime pint prior to going into the shop, but I'd say unlikely. Okay, now number 3, I ummed and ahed about this one. So I knew the band, I was trying to work out which record it was going to be, and in the end I've decided to go for Out of Time by REM. I have got a little bit more into REM in recent times. I picked up a copy of their debut record on CD a while ago, and sometimes I enjoy it and sometimes I don't. I've got an issue with Michael Stipe's voice which grates on me, unfortunately, so it's one of those things where I can hear that the songwriting is good, I can hear that the band is interesting and good and worthy, but his voice just grates on me. It's just, it's almost like a medical complaint. I'm working on it, I'm trying to work on it. Now the reason I don't think I would ever pick up Out of Time is that I actually do know the record quite well. I mean, for a start, I know all the singles from it back in, whenever it came out, it would have been in 1991, something like that. The singles were all over the radio, you couldn't get away from them. Shiny Happy People in particular. Losing My Religion, I grew to hate that song with a passion. I used to drink in a pub in Leeds called the Hyde Park Pub, and there was a video jukebox in there, and that song was always on the jukebox, constantly all the time, so I just really got tired of those singles. But then a friend of mine had a cassette of the album, and I went on a caravanning holiday and listened to it a fair few times, and I quite enjoyed it, but I just don't like Michael Stipe's voice enough, I don't think, and I've heard it quite a lot. I know the record. I probably wouldn't even pick it up on CD now. If I saw it in a charity shop, I just wouldn't bother, you know what I mean? So again, maybe if there was a really beautiful reissue at a record fair going at real cut down prices, I might consider it, but I doubt it. Okay, so now number 2, this one is the one that may kind of annoy people the most and reveal me to be a towering Philistine. Number 2 is actually Nevermind by Nirvana. Now, I've never owned this record. I do have a Nirvana album. I have the album In Utero on CD, which I actually quite like. Nevermind, I've got such strong memories of that coming out back in 92, I think, or 91. Again, the singles were everywhere. You couldn't get away from Smells Like Teen Spirit. I used to go to a rock club here in Lancaster called the Alex, and we used to jump around to Smells Like Teen Spirit. I had a friend, my friend Phil, who I was in a band with, was really into Nirvana, and we spent a fair few weeks driving around in my car blasting Nevermind, and we listened to it over and over and over again. So I've heard those songs so many times, and I must admit, I'll lay my cards on the table, you know. I respect Kurt Cobain, I think he was a good songwriter, but I was never a big fan of Nirvana. I thought the mood, you know, for me, the kind of mood and the psychology of it was too dark, it was too negative. It kind of gave out a kind of energy which was not quite where my musical brain is attuned to. A band that I loved in the 90s was the Eels, or Eels, should I say. Their first album, I thought, was, it sort of took the Kurt Cobain formula, or the Kurt Cobain sound, and to me made it a bit more interesting. Slightly more, or slightly less bleak. Well, it was bleak, but it wasn't kind of put a shotgun in your mouth bleak, you know. At this distance, I just think Nevermind is just not a record that I would get. I just think even if I saw a really decent copy of it going at a good price, I probably would just shrug and flick past it. The time has passed, really. If I was going to own that record, it would have been many years ago. And so, yeah, I kind of missed the boat, really, on that one. But that's not to denigrate the album or to run it down or say that it's not a classic album. You know, it's clearly a massively influential record with some great songs on it, but yeah, not for me now. And number 1 is a band that I just never liked, really. Never sort of tapped into what other people seemed to like in them. And it's Guns N' Roses and Appetite for Destruction. Now this came out in the late 80s, and it was sort of at the tail end of me being into kind of heavy rock and metal. I had a couple of years of listening to things like the Scorpions and that kind of thing, and you know, I still have those records in my collection, but I don't go back to them a great deal. Guns N' Roses came along, and I could see that they were meant to be, or that they were perceived as being, a kind of antidote to all that kind of hair metal stuff that was around. But I just never liked them. I never liked Axl Rose's voice, really grated on me. I didn't like the image. I always wanted to tear the cigarette out of Slash's mouth whenever I saw a photo of him. Just found something about him that was annoying. I don't know, it seemed a bit affected to me. And I never really bought into that kind of tattooed, kilt-wearing, trailer trash kind of image. The songs were good, but they were really overplayed. When I came to uni here in '89, I would say probably Sweet Child of Mine is the song I heard most in my first year. The guy that lived just along the corridor from me, John, who I'm still a good friend of, he had that album, and he used to play Sweet Child of Mine every day pretty much. I heard it every day, you know, on the jukeboxes in the bars, Paradise City, you could never get away from it. If you went out to rock clubs, of course, you would hear it all the time. It never occurred to me to buy it at the time on CD or on record. Nowadays, I think even if somebody gave me a copy of it, I would probably move it along. Yeah, just not really my kind of thing. And even though I can accept, a bit like with the Nirvana one, that it's a historically significant record, and you know, I can hear that it's got some qualities, some good songs, and a lot of craft went into it, and you know, really influential, like I said. But no, I think that particular train has left the station, the ship has sailed, and it's left me behind on the dock. Okay, so there's my 5. Now, I'd be interested if anybody else would like to jump on this and turn it into some kind of thread. Are there 5 records, big records, famous albums that you are fairly certain, after all this time, that you'll probably never buy, even if you saw them at a good price? And yeah, I hope I've not offended anybody, but those are my 5, and I'm sticking with them. Alright folks, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you soon.